Hi, so welcome to the Awakening the Illuminated Heart. My name is Viola Rose, and I'm here in Portland, Oregon, at least right now. And I have been a facilitator for Drunvalo Melchizedek and the School of Remembering for the past 10 years. And Drunvalo has a workshop called Awakening the Illuminated Heart. And he first taught that work to the world for the first time in the fall of 2011. Previous to that, he was teaching a workshop called the Flower of Life workshop. And there's these books, which you may know of or have seen out in the metaphysical world, called The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, volumes 1 and 2, and they're chock full of metaphysical magic and meat and potatoes of the whole thing. Like they're just so dense and wonderful. And he taught a workshop around, well, the books are actually a bit of a transcript from the 5-day workshop that he used to teach, called the Flower of Life workshop. And then slowly over the years, that work began to evolve. And then for a while, he was teaching a workshop called the Earth, Sky, Heart workshop. It was moving toward heart-based stuff. And then in 2011, he started to teach a workshop called Awakening the Illuminated Heart. And the difference of this workshops are that there's a way of activating the Merkaba, which is your light body, which is your personal ascension vehicle that one would use to travel interdimensionally. And so if there was to be an ascension, a grand or a planetary ascension, then in order to go from 3rd dimension to the 4th dimension, you would need an ascension vehicle, some vehicle or a vessel that you could travel interdimensionally with. Without that, we're locked in this dimension and we die, forget who we are, and then we recycle and we keep coming back into life after life. And so if you consciously die with an activated Merkaba or a light body, then you can remain, your consciousness can stay with you and you can go to the next levels of existence. So, Drunvalo was guided to teach this to the world. And it was at a time where we were not ready to activate our heart-based living Merkaba. It looked like ascension was going to be coming to our planet, and it still does, right? Like we're just in this end of time window, and it could be any day or it could be years. Like we don't really know, because time is such a strange construct. And 10 minutes or 20 years, what's the difference really in the grand scheme of infinity and eternity, right? So it was appearing that it was time to get humans ready for this grand ascension. And so Drunvalo came here as a volunteer to help give the information about the Merkaba. And we collectively were not ready to activate our Merkaba from the heart. We have an organic living Merkaba field that we can activate. And once you activate it, it is permanent, and it's connecting your heart and your mind back together in a unified way. And without this connection being available to us at the time, the late 80s, early 90s, he was instructed to teach people to create a synthetic Merkaba around themselves. And that's what is explained in the Flower of Life books. If you've ever dove into those books, you would see that there's a very complicated way of activating your Merkaba. The Merkaba meditation involves a bunch of breaths and visualizing tetrahedrons. And it was like a Band-Aid solution, because we weren't ready to activate our natural living heart-based Merkaba, but we could create a synthetic one around us. And because it was synthetic, it was a meditation that you had to do every day. So if any of you have dove into that and done the Merkaba meditation, that's what that was, a daily meditation to create a synthetic Merkaba around you. So then as time went on and we collectively have started to wake up more and become a little bit more heart-centered, Drunvalo was instructed that it was time to return this to the original way that it was meant to be taught, which was getting into the heart first and then activating the Merkaba from the heart, rather than doing it from the mind. Because when you did it from the mind, your ego could still be intact, and then that could create some problems on the spiritual path. But if you get into the heart first and activate it from here, then you're golden. So that's what he did in 2011 and created this workshop called Awakening the Illuminated Heart. And I got to be at that first time he taught it to the public in Sedona in 2011. And I was pretty darn excited to be there. And I walked away from that workshop saying, this is the most important thing I have ever done. like hands down. And I have done spiritual paths and practices my whole adult life. In my 20s, in the 90s, I was living in ashrams in India as a shaved head monk. Like I just have always been on the path. And yet somehow when I was exposed to this material, I knew that this was the most important pieces that I had received. And so when he put out a call at the last day of that workshop that he wanted to train about 100 people, at a training in a couple months down the road in Mexico to be facilitators of this work, I just knew that that was my heart's calling to be at that training. And I was accepted into that teacher training program and was made a teacher. And then the following year, I got to go back to Mexico again and help him train the next batch of 100 teachers that he taught, and got to be one of his assistants in that. So I've had lots of opportunity to work with him and be in his presence and learn this information directly from him. So since that time, I have taught this work up and down the West Coast and in Hawaii and online for the last year and a half. I've taught over 80 of these 4-day intensives, and it has been profound and amazing every time. So I've seen over 1,000 people go through this training. So I've seen how incredible it is for people and how life-changing and upgrading it is. And for me, myself, I'm a Sagittarius. I'm as whimsical as the next person. And for myself, I know that I'll get interested in something. I'll dive into a book or a spiritual practice, and I'm like, this is amazing and awesome. And I'll do it for a little while. And then the interest fades and I move on to the next thing. And what's next? What's next? What's next? I mean, this is how we keep going onward and upward. And so that's perfectly appropriate. However, this work being something that I'm facilitating, I live it over and over and over. And every time I'm going through this workshop, I get to live it and experience it and breathe it again, and also carry it in my daily life. And at this point, after 10 years, this information and these activations are so a part of me. They're like natural parts of my body, like the beams of light that come out of your head, the Merkaba field, all these different meditations that we teach, that I know so deeply the value of this work. And I feel like at this time, more than ever, that this information is paramount. And this is why I'm doing so many workshops online. And I'm just trying to get this out to whoever wants the information. And doing them online has been pretty amazing, because people are able to attend from all over the world who didn't have opportunity to before because they were too remote or they didn't have the money to travel. And so it's actually been really amazing to do these online and connect with a whole new groups of people all over. So anyway, I'm excited to be here tonight and share this with you in this online format. And I want to start with a little intention and an opening ceremony where we're just going to create a little sacred space and feel ourselves connected together. And then we're going to call in our higher self. And I was speaking just briefly about the higher self, not having the blinders on like we have. However, there's more to say about the higher self. In Drunvalo's understanding, the higher self is us on the 4th dimension. So we are multidimensional beings. If we are multidimensional and we're living right now on the 3rd dimension, we're also living on the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, etc. And it's us on a higher dimensional level. And our 4th dimensional self, which would be the next level up, is what we would call the higher self. Now, Drunvalo talks about this in the Flower of Life books. There is dimensional levels, like in the 3rd dimensional level, we are 90% matter and 10% light, and we are 5 to 7 feet tall, approximately. On the 4th dimensional level, beings are 12 to 15 feet tall, and we are 90% light and 10% matter. So there is still a level of duality in the 4th dimension, but there's a lot less duality than there is here. I mean, here we're really steeped in duality. It's just a little hint of it in the 4th dimension. And then at the 5th dimensional level, beings are like 35 feet tall, and there is no duality. And that's where a level of unity consciousness comes in. And Drunvalo talks about this and gives examples in the Flower of Life books about temples in Egypt and how there's those huge statues and huge doorways into temples. And like, that's not necessarily just metaphor. These are beings from higher dimensions who are coming. Yeah. So on the 5th dimensional level, there's unity consciousness. And in order to come down into the 4th dimensional level, you split into 2, because there's a certain level of duality at that 4th dimensional level. And then we split down even further to come down into this level of density at the third dimension. So saying at the fourth level of consciousness, at the fourth dimension, there is at least two of us. And Drunvalo will call these beings sometimes your angels, sometimes your higher self. And he means the same thing by it. Because if you can think of a being that is 12 to 15 feet tall and is 90% light and 10% matter, that's going to look a lot like an angel. So a lot of times when people say they have an experience of seeing an angel or their angel, they may actually just be seeing their own higher self on a higher dimensional level. And if you make the connection with your higher self, who at that fourth dimensional level doesn't have the blinders on that we have here, then you can have just won the game of life, I've heard him say, because then you can really know exactly what to do to be on your path. And so to call this being in is what we're going to do in this opening ceremony and make a connection. And we're going to call forth these beings to come and be present in front of us. And then I'm going to speak directly to these beings and ask them to turn around and face in the same direction that we are facing, and then step back into our human bodies. I've heard Drunvalo say that the higher self merges with us through our central nervous system. And so that they kind of come in and connect with us. And then from that space, you may feel yourself as they step into you grow taller, because these beings are 12 to 15 feet tall. Or you may sense yourself sense them growing smaller to fit inside of you. Either way. However, once they're connected, you can begin a dialogue with them. And I'll give you a moment to do that in silence and connect with your own higher self. Sometimes it's in verbal, and you may have a conversation where you're listening to that still small voice within, or your own inner guidance, or maybe it's, a familiar sounding or connection that you've had, or maybe it's something new. And then after we do that, we'll come out and then get into the material of the workshop. So anyone have any question about that little explanation I just gave?
No, that was great.
All right. So before I talk on, we'll kind of just drop in that way. And so I'll invite you to close your eyes or keep your eyes open, whatever you feel to do, whatever is going to help you drop into the heart. Sometimes maybe it's being present with each other with your eyes open, or maybe you want to close your eyes and go into the heart and connect from there. So let's just drop in and take a couple breaths into the heart space. Feeling that we are all connected in a circle right now. We've come together in this circle at this unique moment, and we are kindreds on the path. Feel as if we are holding hands in a circle right now across the globe, coming together to do this work and support each other as a community. Take a moment to feel the earth beneath you. Feel the energy of Mother Earth beneath, and know that we're all standing on the same earth. We're all connected to Mother Earth. So we're all in a circle together through the sphere that is Mother Earth. And feel the connection with Father Sky. Know that we are all breathing the same air. There's only one air mass. We're all plugged into it. And so we are all connected through Father Sky. Feeling the energy of Mother Earth and Father Sky meeting in the heart, and then expanding the heart energy outward to fill this space, and feel that we are all connected in the heart. So being present in this space, connected to Mother Earth, Father Sky, the center of the heart. We also call in the energies and the elements of the north, the east, the south, and the west to be present with us here and now in this workshop as we continue to remember who we really are. Protect the space and to keep it sacred and holy for us during our time together. We welcome all these energies to be present here and now. And may all the beings in the universe who wish there to be love, truth, and beauty, trust, harmony, peace, and reverence for God throughout the universe, may those beings be with us here and now. And may one of those beings who is a part of our very own self, our very own higher self, may that being, just one of those beings, be present with us here and now and come forward and be present in front of each one of us at this moment. You also can speak it to yourself if you'd like, to invite your higher self to come stand in front of you. Higher selves, we welcome you to this circle. Thank you for being here. Higher selves, I ask you to turn around and face in the same direction that your human counterpart is facing. And now just step back and step into your human bodies. Take a moment to just connect with your higher self. Feel their presence within you. You can begin a dialogue with them. And anchoring their presence within you. And also feeling the connection of this circle that we have created. And with that awareness, you can slowly open your eyes and come back to the group, holding that awareness and that feeling of being connected to your higher self. This is a great little exercise you can do anytime that you want to connect with your higher self. And you could just invite them to come be in front of you and feel that moment where they step in. It's so tangible that it's an easy way to connect that's not as abstract. And then once you do that enough, then you start to feel their presence within you all the time. So in the workshop, we every day visit this connection and we build upon it and really learn to establish that sort of connection and rapport with your higher self. Does anybody want to share anything about that?
Oh, yeah, I actually felt energy rushes coming down my spine from my head all the way down, and then a pressure. Just, it was really beautiful.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just one special little piece that you can take with you, and you can have that connection, for the rest of your life, just that connection with your higher self. And one thing that I love about this is that we're calling in our very own self. We're not calling in anything outside of us. Now, Drunvalo's work, his whole body of work is aimed at preparing a person for personal and planetary ascension, for sure. That's kind of the premise of his work. And yet it all comes from a place of sovereignty. It's about we have everything we need inside of us. We don't need teachers. We don't need gurus. In a way, sometimes this workshop is referred to as a workshop to end all workshops, because we're remembering all this, right? We have everything we need inside of ourselves, but sometimes maybe just a few pointers to access those places where we have our own access can be helpful. And so this workshop sort of does that, connection to your own higher self. And so with that connection, we don't have to call in guides or guardians or other beings. We can call in aspects of our very own self. And I love that. That part lights me up so much, as you'll see as we talk more and more about the different pieces that this workshop offers in this body of work. So let's just talk a little bit about, the different pieces of the workshop. We do all these different exercises to connect with the higher self, to get into the heart space, to do exercises of imagery work that is like stretching to get prepared for interdimensional experiences. And there's these fun exercises that we do. And then we also have a healing ceremony to help heal traumas around the heart. And that is because we're going to learn a method, and I'm going to share it with you today, of getting into the sacred space of the heart. And sometimes people have a hard time doing that because there's trauma around the heart space. And that can be because sometimes a traumatic experience can happen in our lives, a divorce or a violent crime, something like that. And it can be a trauma that we just put a little bit of a shield around and we just tuck it away. And yet it's sitting there like a boulder in the path. And then when we try to move our consciousness from our mind or wherever we're residing, but most people are residing in the mind, down into the heart space, we'll bump up against that trauma and then we can't get into the heart. And so there's a very simple and lovely healing ceremony that we participate in the second morning of the workshop to help heal traumas around the heart so that we can create a pathway to get into the heart space. And then we start to work with going into the sacred space of the heart. Now let's talk about the sacred space of the heart and the tiny space of the heart. Drunvalo has a book called Living in the Heart. And it's a lovely book. And you can access this at any major bookstore. The Portland Library has copies. And there's a CD in the back of the book where he does a guided meditation to lead you into the sacred space of the heart. And you can also find that meditation on YouTube. So you have easy access to that in the future. So the idea is that we have a sacred space in our hearts. And the Upanishads talk about this space. The Upanishads is a book written over 1,000 years ago by people just like you and I who went into the sacred space of their heart, and then they wrote about their experience. And there's a space inside that is connected to our upper heart chakra. So in Drunvalo's understanding of the chakras, we have a 13 chakra system instead of a 7 chakra system. In this system, just like you have the 7 notes on a piano, if you start at the C note on a piano and you go up to B, that's 7 notes. So that's like the 7 chakra system. If you add in the black keys of the piano and then you add the return C, that's a total of 13 notes. And so it's adding in some secondary chakras to this 13 chakra system. And in this chakra system, we have 2 heart chakras, which, together make a whole heart field, the heart space, but it's broken down into 2 heart chakras. You have a lower heart chakra that is your universal heart chakra, and it's connected to God and all life everywhere. And an upper heart chakra, which is your personal heart chakra, which is connected to your loves and longings and heartbreaks and things like that. And the sacred space of the heart is connected to your upper heart chakra. And there's another space in the heart called the tiny space of the heart, and we'll talk about that next. So the sacred space of the heart is your very personal space. And when you want to go into sacred space inside and go to your own inner temple or your own inner sanctuary, you would go to your sacred space in your heart. There's different ways to get there. And in this book, Living in the Heart, Drunvalo talks about a male way to get into the heart, which he figured out from the Heart Math Institute, that we have these toroidal field that goes around our heart. It's a field 8 to 10 feet in diameter. And you can see that on the cover of this Living in the Heart book. There's a toroidal field, 8 to 10 feet in diameter. That's an electromagnetic field that comes out of the heart. And Drunvalo believes that this toroidal field is an outer one, and then there's a smaller inner one, that they go right into the sacred and tiny space of the heart. So there's a way of going into the heart space where you can actually just take your consciousness and move it and write it down into the heart. It's the way that he calls the male way into the heart, because it's very logical, and people with masculine minds can follow those instructions pretty easily. And then he has another way into the heart that's the female way into the heart, and it's more intuitive. It's just more like moving your consciousness down in your body and going, I'm going to keep moving until I end up in the sacred space of my heart. And it's a very intuitive and not as structured, and it's great for people with more female or intuitive minded thought processes. There's another way into the heart that I'm going to share with you today that's not in the book. So those methods you can practice if you were to get the book. So I want to share another way with you that he offers in the workshop that he only discovered after writing that book. And it's called the Jesus way into the heart, or the Coptic way into the heart. And this is a way that he found through the Gnostic traditions and some obscure Gnostic texts that he found. He read Jesus was saying that the sacred space of the heart is at the back of the heart. So he went exploring and he found it's kind of true, but not fully true. Just like in the past, so much information was always slightly veiled or slightly hidden. So the instruction at the back of the heart, there's more to it than that. And he went and he found that at the back of the heart, at about the middle, there's a crevice or a fold in the heart. And as he moved closer to that spot, he found that there was a small spinning vortex at about the middle of that crevice or fold that usually appears as a dark or a light spot. And it was like a whirlpool or a vortex. And as he moved closer with his consciousness, it just pulled him in. And he found himself now leaving the surface of the heart and going inner, into his inner realms, going interdimensional. It's like a little bit of a stargate or a portal on the surface of the heart. Once he passed through, he was moving down a tube or a tunnel. And when he stopped, he found himself in the sacred space of his heart. So that's the way I'm going to share with you today. But we have many pieces to put together before I can take you into that meditation. It's such a crash course, but I think you'll get it anyway. What is going to move? When I talk about going into the heart and taking your consciousness and moving into the heart, let's talk about what that is. So if we are infinite beings, and we would have no center, because infinity has no center. But we are finite beings right now, right? We have a physical form, and we're in a finite existence that's going to come to an end. And it's because of that, infinity or anything finite can have a center. And so what we're talking about is the center of your being. And we're talking about the spirit center. And this is something that people will often visualize, like a little glowing sphere or a marble, or a little flame or a crystal, something like that, usually about the size of a marble. And it's the center of your consciousness. And if we are not our body, but we are a spirit, it has a consciousness residing in our body, then our spirit is centered somewhere in our body. Now, from a very young age, we're taught to be in our mind, like our whole schooling and conditioning that happens through that whole indoctrination system. It teaches people to be living in their mind. And so most of us, whether we reside there regularly or not, we're pretty comfortable with being in the mind. But people can be located in any other chakra or outside of the body, maybe in front for protection. Carlos Castaneda has his disciples practice having their spirit centered over the shoulder behind the body. I'm not exactly sure why, but there's different ways that you could have your spirit center oriented. And so just take a moment to close your eyes right now and tune in. Like, if I am not my body, but I am a spirit inhabiting my body, where am I located? Where is my consciousness right now? See if you can get a sense of that. Can you get a sense of that? It's a fun exercise, and I invite you to try to track that. You know, when you go to bed or when you get up in the morning, where am I located? Where am I located? And just start to track that and notice where you're normally residing inside of yourself. And this is what's going to move. And for the sake of the meditation that we do, wherever you happen to be located, I will guide you in the meditation from the mind, from the center of the head, because we're all probably very familiar with being there, even if we don't reside there all the time. So we'll start there, and then we'll move in the body with this little consciousness. And in the workshop, we take a lot more time with this, and we do practice exercises of moving in the body and moving and seeing if you can have your awareness in your hand and see out of your hand. And you know, there's a lot more to it, but I'm just gonna throw this all at you, and we'll just go straight into it because we don't have time to do all, you know, all the practicing exercises, but you may get the sense of it anyhow. Like when you stub your toe is an example I like to give. When you stub your toe, all of your awareness, whoosh, it goes there. Oh my God, it's intense, right? And so this idea of moving in the body is maybe more familiar than we think of. And so I'll have us move in the body with our little spirit center, and we'll start, and then we'll move down to the throat chakra, and then we'll move down into the chest area, and we'll follow that way into the heart that's behind the heart. And we'll map that out in the way that Jesus laid out. And then we're going to go into the sacred space of the heart. So when we get into the sacred space of the heart, which is your very personal sacred space, and it could look like anything, like a room or a meadow, or however it looks for you, whatever your inner languaging, however it presents it. When you get there, it may be in darkness, because the mind and the brain sees with light coming in from the two eyes so we can see. Well, the heart sees in darkness. And so when you first get into the heart, it may be dark, and the first thing that you do is ask for there to be light. Let there be light. It's the first thing that you say when you get into your sacred space of your heart. And the light might come on right away, and it might not. It might come on the third time you do the meditation, or it might come on after a half an hour. You just ask for there to be light, and then trust the experience and let it be what it is. And the next thing that we're going to do is tune in to the vibration in the heart. Now, the Upanishads talk about these experiences of people who went into the heart, and many of them talk about a vibration inside of the sacred space of the heart. And the Hindus believe that this vibration is the true Om, and that it is older than the universe itself. And you may feel a vibration in your heart, or you may even hear a frequency. Either way, if it's something that you can translate into sound and hum it with your voice, this will serve you well. And so when we go into the heart, I will ask you to, if you can, to try to make whatever sound that you are hearing or vibration that you're feeling. And this is one way that you can bring yourself back to your heart whenever you want to, because it's like a little bit like a homing beacon. Every time you go into your heart, if you make the sound that is alive in there, like for me, it's this. Maybe a different tone for everybody. But every time I go into my sacred space of my heart, if I make that sound, then when I'm out in the world and I'm like in line at the bank or it's taking too long and I'm frustrated in my car and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so not in my heart right now. I can just make that sound and bring myself back there, like a little bit like a homing beacon. And so it's really a helpful thing to get to know whatever sound is in your heart. And if you're not hearing anything or feeling anything, you could just make different tones till you find one that you feel like, ah, that's it. That's vibrating my heart. That's how it's resonating. I don't subscribe to the idea that there's a certain note for the heart chakra. Like, oh, I've got, a crystal ball for this chakra or that chakra. I think it's so different for everyone. We're all our own unique songs. And so everyone's sound that is coming from their heart is going to be unique and different. And I have seen that in the workshop when I've done it in person, and I'm hearing everyone toning in the room, and it's slightly different pitches for everybody. So you'll have your own unique sound. So I'll ask you to make that sound, and then I'll give you some time to explore this place and just see what's there. Since this is your personal sacred space, you might have like crystals on the ground that you've programmed with records or information about past lives. Maybe there's a library that's a keeper of information about things that you might want to know about yourself. Anything you could ever want to know about yourself, your personal Akashic records, it's all there in your sacred space. And there shouldn't be other people there. Your higher self can be there because your higher self is you. And Drunvalo has also said that a spirit animal or two can also show up there. And so this is a space you would want to come when you want to be in your own energy and really get clear, connect with your higher self, or just kind of marinate in the divinity that is you. So there's another space that we're going to talk about. We're not going to go into the meditation. We don't have time to do both, but I just want to mention it to you because sometimes you might pick it up on your own anyway. There's another space inside the sacred space, and it's called the tiny space of the heart. And this is like the sacred space of the heart is like going into a temple. When I go into an actual temple, like in Egypt or somewhere, and you walk into a place where people have meditated for thousands of years, you kind of feel that skin, like goosebumps, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so in a holy place right now. That's how I feel when I go into my sacred space. I can feel I'm in a holy place. Well, then when I go into the tiny space of the heart that is within the sacred space, which is connected to your lower heart chakra, then I feel like I'm at the altar. I'm in the holy of holies, or the inner sanctum, or the shrine in the temple. It feels even more potent and holy. Holly, did you have a question? No? Oh, the little digital hand went up. Okay. It's okay. And the tiny space of the heart is the same tiny space in everyone else's heart. It is the unified field. It is the place of unity consciousness, and my tiny space and your tiny space are the same place. That is where the Akashic records of everything is, and that's where you can connect to anyone at any time. And so that is like the holy of holies. Inside the temple is the inner temple, and the inner actually creates the outer. And this is represented in this book here with there's an inner torus field. And then there's the outer, and the inner is connected to the tiny space of the heart, and the outer is connected to the sacred space. All this information is in this book, Living in the Heart. And the workshop itself sort of picks up where this book ends. And so this would be one way to know if you were interested in this work, is if you resonated with this book, Living in the Heart, then you would know, oh, okay, this is on track for me, right? And this is a requirement to actually attending the workshop, is that you have to read this book first. So that way you're up to date, and then we can just fly from there. Reading the Flower of Life books is not a requirement. That's a huge endeavor, but it's recommended to at least get familiar with them beforehand. Okay, so going into the sacred space of the heart, there's something that we'll do before we do that. And it's something that Drunvalo calls the unity breath, or the Holy Trinity vibration. Now, indigenous cultures around the world have always done something similar before they go into sacred ceremony. In their own way, they connect with Mother Earth and Father Sky before they do sacred ceremony with love. Now, Drunvalo's understanding of Mother Earth is that Mother Earth is the planet that we live on, right? She's a living being, and we are part of her because our bodies are made of Mother Earth, and everything that we consume in our bodies is made from Mother Earth. So the planet and all the living beings on her body, including the animals, including the plants, we're all a part of Mother Earth. Father Sky is everything else in creation, including the moon, including the other stars, including other planets, including all life everywhere. That's part of Father Sky. So if you feel love from Mother Earth and Father Sky before you do a sacred ceremony, and you're kind of feeling love for everything and everyone. And so that would really set you up to be able to do a sacred ceremony. And how we do that is feel love in our heart from Mother Earth, and we send that love to her, and then she sends that love back, and we get a current of love going between us and Mother Earth. And then we do the same thing for Father Sky. And I'll talk us through that in our meditation that we're going to do together. And then from there, that sets up a vibration within us that is a key that will unlock the door to the heart. So then when we travel down into the body to behind the heart, it will be the key that unlocks the door, because we're already resonating in love, and it'll help that door to open and allow us to go into the sacred space of the heart. So we'll do all that in a little bit after we take a break at the top of the hour. And have the experience of being in the sacred space of the heart. Any questions so far?
I've just got one quick one. When I asked my higher self if it was male or female, and I'm not even sure why I asked that, but the answer that I got was it was a unity of light and there is no gender. Would that be right? Like
Yes,
it's
some people perceive their higher self in gender forms and some not. So
Okay.
it's not like Drunvalo doesn't say anything about like one's male and one's female, anything like that. They may not even appear very human-like at all. So it can be different for everyone.
because I thought my guide is female called Imogen, but that's obviously different to my higher self. So I was just taken aback by no genderness. I wondered if that was a thing that's normal.
Yeah, I've heard it is pretty normal. Yep.
Okay. That's the only question I had. Thanks.
Sure. Anything else, anyone?
I just noticed on there's an audio book. I listen to audiobooks sometimes when I'm driving. The only one that he has is Serpent of Light. Would you suggest that one?
I would. Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're, wanting to dive into the sort of the magical world of Drunvalo, Serpent of Light as a fun ride.
Yeah. And then I ordered the other book, the first one that I already ordered that one.
Great.
While you were talking. So
Sure.
yeah, this is very, very exciting. So yeah.
Yeah, the work of Drunvalo is amazing. When I first found it, I was like, oh my God, this stuff is far out. And yet leave him. Like this resonates in my soul as truth. And I just devoured everything I could find, by him, because I just knew there was truth in it for me. So
yeah,
it's pretty exciting.
Well, I think people resonate to it that are supposed to resonate to it. I mean, because maybe they've had experiences that kind of are in line with what he's teaching. It's funny because last year I was actually looking it up, and it's funny because I remember seeing you and online, and I was reading about it. I'm like, oh, I don't know, there was the dates or something, just it didn't work out. And then it's kind of ironic how you ended up sitting right next to me. And it's funny, it's just like wow, so
that's true. We ended up meeting last week at a sister circle that we were invited to.
Very, very cool. I didn't even notice until I went online to sign up. I'm like, oh my God, I've been here before.
And Heidi is chiming in that she has listened to the audiobook of Drunvalo 5 times now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's an audiobook and you could just listen to that over and over.
Yes.
Yeah. And so to answer your comment on what you just shared, I have heard Drunvalo say that this work is not for everybody, and he's not trying to reach everyone with this work. This is for certain people who came here with a certain disposition and a certain soul contract to do certain work here, to awaken in this way, to help the collective awaken. And it's only meant to reach the people it's meant to reach. And so it is pretty far out, and people are like, Drunvalo, what, is that even a person's name? It's pretty obscure stuff. And so when you find your way here, it's usually in alignment that you're meant to be, to this thread. So let's just take a 5-minute break until the top of the hour. And then we're going to come back and we'll do that meditation. And then we're going to talk more after that about some of the other pieces of the workshop, including, the beams of light, Merkaba, and things like that. So I'll see you at the top of the hour.
Okay. Am I supposed to do something? just I'll just leave it then, I guess. I, I don't know how to. I'm new at this. Okay.
Welcome back. I should have mentioned this before the break, but if you have a meditation mask or some sort of scarf or something like that that you can use for the meditation, that will be helpful. I want to go get that. So if you have a meditation mask or a sleeping eye mask or something that you can put over your eyes for meditation, that will be helpful. I'll explain why in a moment. I can't, some people have their video or choosing to have their video off, so I don't know if everyone's back yet for the break. If you feel comfortable just popping in for a second to let me know you're here, that would be great. Even if you want to keep your video off, that's fine. Great. Oh yeah, or a message in the chat works as well. Thank you. Okay, so just in case you didn't get the memo, I forgot to mention it before the break, but you want an eye mask or something that you can use for the meditation. And the reason is because we said earlier how the heart sees in darkness, whereas the brain sees with light. So as long as light is coming in your two physical eyes, it stimulates the brain functions and activates the brain and makes it harder to go into the heart. So if we block out all the light, then it's like easier to go into the heart. I liken it to when you think about a bird in a cage, how it will chirp, chirp, chirp. And then if you put a blanket over the cage, how the bird just quiets. I liken that to the mind, how the mind will just chirp, 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 right? Do its thing. And then once we cut out all the light, it just quiets it down and then makes it easier to go into the darkness of the heart. And then also being in darkness helps you to see in the heart because the heart is in darkness. And so if you've got no light coming in your eyes, it's easier to tune in to that internal eye in the heart. So we're going to do this meditation and we'll start with the unity breath, with connecting with Mother Earth and Father Sky to get that Holy Trinity vibration that will set the vibration in us that will allow us to have the key that unlocks the door into the heart. And then I'm going to guide you through a meditation where we start in the center of the head in your pineal chakra, which is in the direct center of your head. And then we're going to move in our bodies with that spirit center that's like a little marble of some sort. And when you move in your body, the idea is to be in the place that you're moving. Like I said, we're not going to be practicing a bunch of exercises. We're just going to go right into it, but do the best you can. And what you want to do is have the idea that your vantage point is where you are. So if you've traveled with your little spirit center in your body, and maybe what if you came over to your shoulder? Your vantage point would be here, and you would be able to look up and see your head above you up there, look down and see your feet below you. So that's the idea of that you're traveling with your consciousness, with your vantage point and with your awareness to wherever you're moving in your body. And that will help you to have the experience be real so that you're not just staying in your mind, thinking about being in your heart. You're actually leaving the mind and traveling to the heart. And it's a different experience than staying in the mind thinking about it. Because you could be in your mind and have an experience of love and think, oh, I must be in my heart because I'm feeling love. but there is still love in the mind. It's just love based in duality. So there's always love and, because the brain, the mind, it's a dualistic thinking organ, perfect for this third dimensional reality. That we have a left side and a right side. It's a dualistic tool. So in the mind, we'll have love and some doubt, love and some fear, love and some judgment. But in the heart, which is a place of unity consciousness, there is no duality in the heart. There's only love. And so that's how sometimes we can be tricked thinking that we might be in our heart, but we're in our mind. So one way out of that conundrum is to travel from the mind, actually leave it with your awareness and go into the heart. So we'll do that. And then we'll go behind the heart, look for the crevice in the fold or the fold in the heart, that small spinning vortex at about the middle, which is like that little portal, right? And then as we approach this little spinning portal, it's just going to pull us in. That little spirit marble or whatever you're visualizing is going to go into the heart and then move down a tunnel or a tube or some sort of wormhole and land in the sacred space of your heart. Then we'll ask for there to be light, and then we'll feel the vibration. And then I'll give you probably 10 minutes or so to just stay in the meditation on your own so that you can explore this place and then get to know it. And then at the end of the meditation, I'll call us back into the room, but I'm not going to have us travel back up to the mind to come out of the meditation. We're going to anchor here and then just bring our awareness out into the space while anchored in the heart so that we can practice living in the heart and bringing the meditation out into our daily life. That's how we come to be living in the heart instead of just visiting the heart. So this will be our first journey in that way. And so if you're ready, you can put on your mask and get ready and comfortable for this meditation. You want to be sitting nice and straight. You don't want to cross one leg over the other unless you're sitting in a balanced crisscross style. Just kind of have your spine erect, but relaxed and comfortable. And begin to just breathe rhythmically, the same length of time in as out. We're going to begin by thinking about a place in nature. We're going to be connecting with Mother Earth first. So we'll start by thinking about a place in nature that you know and love, that you've been to, a real place, one of your favorite places in nature. So this way you can imagine it easily. And imagine as if you are there right now. And feel everything about this place with all of your senses. Maybe you smell the forest or the wind, you hear the wind, the ocean, you feel the grass or the sand under your feet, like wherever you are, just feel it with all of your senses. And feel how your body and your being start to respond when you imagine that you are in this place that you love. Feeling the love that you have for this place. And then feel the love that you have for all of nature. And feel the love that you have for Mother Nature, Mother Earth, the spirit of the earth, this living being that we live on, who has given us everything that we have, even our bodies. Just feel this love that you have for Mother Earth. And really feel it in your heart, not just thinking about loving Mother Earth with your mind, but an active sensation of feeling love for Mother Earth in your heart. Maybe with every in-breath that you take, maybe you feel that love increasing. And take all this love and place it into a small sphere in your heart. And then you're going to send this love down your body into the earth. You're going to send it like a little packet of love. You're sending it to Mother Earth from your heart down into the earth, all the way to the center of the earth, to the heart of the mother, where she will feel and receive your love. And then you open yourself to receive her love as she sends it back to you. And she always will, because she is your mother and she loves you so much. And you just let this love rise up into you from below and let it move through all of your bodies, your physical body, your emotional body, your mental body, your spiritual body. And just let this love nurture you on every level. And feel yourself connected heart to heart with Mother Earth. Now keep this love, this flow of love moving between you and Mother Earth, but put your attention on a night sky. Imagine as if you are standing outside at night under a clear sky filled with stars. Maybe you see the Milky Way stretched across the sky, the moon, and experience how you feel when you look up at the sky, at this great, vast expanse above, and feel that awe and wonder. Feel the gratitude that you have for being alive. And the magnitude of existence. Feel the love that you have for all life everywhere, all of creation. And feel the love that you have for Father Sky. Really feeling this love in your heart. And take all this love and place it into a small sphere in your heart. And then send it up your body, out the top of your head, up into the heavens, where Father Sky will feel and receive your love. You could send it to the sun. You could send it to the great central sun or the grids around the earth, or just up into the heavens, where Father Sky will feel and receive your love. And open yourself to receive his love as he sends it back to you. And feel this love enter into you from above, move down into your body, and let it nurture you on every level. And feel yourself connected heart to heart with Father Sky. And feeling connected to Mother Earth at the same time. Feel the connection with both Mother Earth and Father Sky meeting in your heart. Also feel the love that the mother and the father have for each other. And feel the love that you have for yourself. And this is the Holy Trinity vibration. The Divine Mother, the Divine Father, and you, the Divine Child, all meeting together in love in the heart. This is the unity breath. And this is the key that unlocks the door to the heart. So just a couple more breaths here, and then we're going to move forward. And now you're going to bring your awareness to the center of your head, to your pineal chakra in the very center of your head. And bring your spirit center and your awareness to this place. However you visualize it. And feel as if you are in the center of your head. And when you're in the center of your head, the skull is all around you. So feel the skull surrounding you. And now you're going to let go of this place and you're going to move down to your throat chakra with your spirit center. You're traveling inside of your body. Maybe you visualize it like a glass elevator so that you're seeing and feeling yourself moving down your head and moving to your throat chakra. And remember, vantage point. So your awareness goes with you as you travel down first to your throat chakra. And once in your throat chakra, stop and feel what this place feels like. It probably feels very different than being in your head. And now you're going to continue traveling down into your chest area until you are behind your heart on the left side of your body. And you're looking at your heart in front of you. Looking at your heart, look for the crevice or the fold at about the middle of the heart. And the small spinning vortex at about the middle of that crevice or fold. And let yourself move closer to this small spinning vortex. Maybe you see it, maybe you feel it, maybe you sense it. The way we perceive is all different and unique. But somehow you're perceiving this vortex, this small spinning vortex in the center of the heart. And as you let your spirit center move closer to this vortex, it will just pull you in. And you will enter in through the surface of the heart and begin to travel down a tube or a tunnel. And you keep moving until you come to a natural stop, at which point you will be in the sacred space of your heart. Once inside the sacred space of your heart, ask for there to be light if it is dark. And the light might come on right away or it might not. Either way is fine. Now feel the vibration that's in this place. You may feel it like a feeling or a vibration, or hear it like a frequency. Either way, if you can translate whatever you're experiencing, whether it's audible or sensory, if you can translate that into sound and hum it with your voice, I'll invite you to make that sound with your voice for a moment or so that you can remember it. And everyone is muted, so feel free to make whatever sounds feel good for you. And now I'm going to leave you in the meditation for 10 minutes so that you can continue to explore this place, get to know this place. Maybe your higher self is there, maybe a spirit animal, maybe there's a library or places to explore. So just be in this center of yourself, in your inner sanctuary for about 10 minutes. So take a moment to anchor this feeling of being in your sacred space of your heart. And then as we come out of the meditation, we're not going to travel back to the mind. We're just going to anchor our energy here in the heart. And then slowly add in the outside world. Bring your awareness back into the room that you are in, back into this group, while staying in your sacred space of your heart. And when you're ready, you slowly open your eyes. Maybe your hand is on your heart so that you anchor there while you open your eyes, and hold the awareness of both being in your heart and being present in the outside world. Take your time making that transition. And once you've opened your eyes, take a few breaths into the heart so that you're really feeling that awareness of being anchored in your heart. And this right here is how we create the world that we want to live in, right? This is it. This is living in the heart, and not just doing it in a meditation, but bringing it out and walking in the world from this place, right? So then the practice becomes returning. We carve this pathway here. The sacred space of the heart is something that many of us have found before, maybe in a medicine ceremony or a beautiful sunset or a meditation or something like that. It could be a familiar place, but we're just carving a reliable pathway from the mind to the heart. The more you walk a path, the quicker and easier it gets to walk. And so if you do this meditation over and over, set up your day here in the heart, then you start to notice when you're not in your heart, and it becomes more the norm to be living from here. So then when you notice you're not in your heart, you're like, and you return. So then the practice becomes returning and just returning. And so that you're starting to live in your heart more than you're living in your mind, which is our default that we're taught. And then you start to flip the scale, and you start to notice when you're not in your heart as opposed to when you are. And it's a subtle and profound shift, and has to do with the heart is a unity consciousness place. There's no duality in the heart, and there is duality in the mind. And if we are creators and we are creating reality on some level all the time, if we're doing it from our mind because we're living there and we're thinking about what we want to manifest or anything like that, then we're going to be creating what we want from the duality of the mind. So we'll get what we want and the life that we want, but we'll also get the equal opposite of what we don't want. That's just the nature of duality. And so people maybe are trying to create reality from the mind and vision boards and thinking things into creation, and don't realize that they're getting what they want and the opposite. And then it's this roller coaster, up and down, some good, some bad. And it's such a subtle shift that when you start to anchor and create reality and live from here, you're not on the roller coaster anymore. Life becomes a river of grace, as I like to call it, as opposed to the duality of the mind. So it's a really important piece. Does anybody want to share anything about their experience?
That was a really awesome meditation. I felt something on the back, and it was just like a pulse, like a hard pulse, and then just other different energies, but it was really an intense meditation.
Great.
Yeah.
I was just happy that mine was lit up.
Nice.
I was expecting it to be in darkness. So I was like, yay, it's lit up for me. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. So where this goes from here is into the tiny space of the heart, which we talked a little bit about, right? Where somewhere in your sacred space, you can find a tiny space of your heart, which is the unity consciousness, which is the same tiny spaces in everyone, even though it could look unique and different for you. When you're in your tiny space, you're in the tiny space of the universe. And if it's a beautiful place to go for your meditations, even if you have another spiritual practice that you do, it's really nice to get set up in the tiny space of the heart or the sacred space of the heart and then do your other meditation practice. Like it goes hand in hand with whatever else you might do. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Sometimes I like to, when I get into bed at night, go into my sacred and tiny space of my heart and then fall asleep from there. Then I have really sweet dreams and a really blissful night sleep. So other things that are part of this work are activating the beams of light around your head. Now, your pineal chakra, the center of your head, has these beams that come out of them. They're your psychic antennas, and they're like little fluorescent light bulbs or rods that go all the way through and come out of your head. And if you've ever seen pictures of Jesus with these little beams coming back him that sometimes people think is a cross, but yet it's surrounded by a halo. There's a whole technology here that we learn to activate in the workshop, which are the beams of light. And they are psychic antennas, and it turns on a halo around your head when you activate the beams and then open your third eye. And so the opening of the third eye is a pretty complex process, and we learn to do this in the workshop as well. And it involves getting into the tiny space of your heart, like we just went into the sacred space, and then you would get into the tiny space. And from there, there's a meditation that involves rubbing your tongue on the roof of your mouth to stimulate the brain to produce alpha waves and turning your third eye forward. Now, your third eye is your pineal gland. Some people think this spot here, they call the third eye. This is where your pituitary chakra is. And your pituitary gland is just behind the forehead. Your pineal gland is in the center of your head, just behind your pineal chakra. And the pineal gland is, in fact, an actual eyeball. And there's a book by Jacob Lieberman called Light, the Medicine of the Future. And in this book, he maps out that the pineal gland is just like an eye. It has a color receptors on it for receiving light. It's hollow, and it has a lens on it. When they dissected it, they found that it's exactly like an eyeball, but it's shriveled to about the size of a raisin, and it should be about the size of an eyeball. So this third eye, which we haven't really used, we are going to put energy on. It's naturally looking upward, and we're going to turn that eye to look forward. And then as we're rubbing the tongue on the roof of the mouth and you're stimulating alpha waves in your brain, light starts to form inside of your head. And this is something not that you visualize, that actually happens to you. You've got a meditation mask on, and you're stimulating the brain in this way. And when you generate enough alpha waves in the brain, there's a light that comes inside of your head, and you push it through the pituitary chakra to actually open your third eye. So it's a bit of a complex process. Sometimes we hear about, oh, my third eye's open, or what that, is spoken of lightly sometimes in New Age circles, but there's actually a really precise practice that we learn to actually open the third eye. And once the third eye opens, the halo is formed around your head. And if you're in your heart and your beams of light are activated and you get that halo turned on, from that state is when we activate the heart-based living Merkaba that I talked about in the beginning of this class. That isn't the synthetic one that you have to create every day. It's your natural living Merkaba field that comes online when your heart and your mind are connected together in this way. And the duality of the mind disappears into unity in that state. And then your living Merkaba activates. And this is something that people experience in many different ways. In the workshop, I have people describing it like an explosion of energy going outward, or a disc popping out, or something starting to spin around them, or orgasmic wave, or energy, emotion. Different things happen for people when their light body activates. But the Merkaba is a field 55 to 60 feet around the human body that is generated by star tetrahedrons. So this is a little hard to see in this image in the screen, but this is a star tetrahedron, and it's made by a tetrahedron on the top, which is a three-sided pyramid, and a tetrahedron on the bottom. And we have 3 of these around our bodies. One is it's an electromagnetic field. So there's an electric component that's masculine, and it's a whole star tetrahedron, and it spins to the left around the body. And then there's a feminine star tetrahedron that is magnetic and spins to the right side of the body. And this creates a counter-rotating field of energy around the body. And then there's a third star tetrahedron that's stationary around the body. This is the makeup of the Merkaba. And these star tetrahedrons are around all of us, Drunvalo says, in the form of a seed. It just needs to be activated. And so when we get everything dialed in and lined up in this way, then our living heart-based Merkaba comes online. And once you activate it once, it's permanent. It's not a meditation that you have to do every day like it used to be in the Flower of Life books. It has evolved to that state where we're ready to do that. And once you have it activated, Drunvalo says that's your last life on earth. You are then, when either the planet ascends or you die, you can ascend to the next levels of consciousness, and you're not recycled over and over, because you can travel interdimensionally. And then in the workshop, we learned to actually program the Merkaba to work with it. You can actually instruct it to protect you and to do certain things for you. And with my activated Merkaba, I feel like an invincible superhero out in the world. I can go into any realm, any scene, like I'm not afraid of energies or entities or anything like that. Like nothing can touch me. I have this field around me that is impenetrable, that I have programmed, and it helps me to be more in service in the world. I feel invincible. I have no fear. And yes, it's supported by the fact that I know I've got this field around me, but whatever works and whatever gets you on your path to like be out there in the world and do what we're here to do. So you can program it to support you, and also to emit love to the world and give blessings and those kinds of things. So we learn to work with programming the Merkaba. How do you work with it? How do you breathe prana into it to keep it charged up regularly? We also learn how to create external Merkabas. Merkabas in separate places from the one around your body that are fed from the energy of your Merkaba that you can use to protect the space or to clean up the environment, things like that. And then we also learn to create reality from the heart. As we talked about, we're creating reality all the time. And if we're doing it from the default place of being in our mind, we'll do it from duality. There's a meditation that's similar to the Merkaba meditation I just talked about, with the tongue rubbing and opening the third eye. And there's a state of consciousness you can get to in that, where then you go back into your heart and you be with the dreams and the images of your heart, and you can create reality from the unity of your heart, as opposed to the duality of the mind. And it involves understanding that we live in a hologram and that there's really nothing outside of us but on the edge of our field. And if you can change the images on the edge of your field, then you can change your reality. And there's a method that we learn of taking an image that's in your heart and moving it through the toroidal lines that come out of your heart that we talked about earlier, and having them be picked up by the halo and then transferred to the field around you, and bring the image out into the outer world. So there's a lot of really amazing pieces that are covered in 4 days. Nonetheless, these pieces of just getting into the sacred space of the heart and connecting with your higher self, I think are so valuable. And so it's my delight to share them with you. Does anyone have any questions about any of this material, or about anything to do with Drunvalo or the Merkaba or Ascension?
I maybe have a quick question.
Sure.
It's kind of going back to when we did the meditation into the heart. I noticed myself like wanting to weep or cry. And then I also noticed that I got kind of burpy, and I just wondered if that was like a purging that I was experiencing, and if that's common for us to just sort of push energy out of the way while we're maybe like moving deeper in. I guess that's
Absolutely. I think
okay.
when we bring in the higher vibrations, definitely the physical system adjusts and adapts and acclimates. And so there can be a little, awkward adjusting time.
Okay.
Yeah. Emotionally and physically. Yeah.
Okay.
So in the first book that you showed us, I immediately ordered it on Amazon. And so what you're saying is that you just made a comment a few minutes ago um, about the Merkaba, that now we've progressed and we don't have to do it a certain way anymore. So that would be in the newer books. So should I cancel that book and order a different one?
No, so the new way of
Okay.
activating the Merkaba isn't in any of the
Right.
books. It's only taught in this workshop. Drunvalo
Oh,
is in the process of writing a book called The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, Volume 3. And it's
okay.
not out yet. And so there's so much material in the Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life book. And the Merkaba meditation is just a small piece of that. There is so much valuable information in those books that you're going to love. So I wouldn't
Okay.
cancel that at all. I think you'll get a lot out of that material. But when it comes to the steps of activating the Merkaba, you may choose to do that or not do that. Because it's
Right. I remember it was 2020, maybe because it was a pandemic, why I didn't take it further. That's probably what happened. But I've already started the meditations. There's just a few, there's not much information, and it's just, maybe little 10-minute videos. But I've already started doing that. And I think it's just such a fascinating subject. I think
yeah.
it's so important. And, people really should be talking about it more. It's fascinating.
And there's certainly no harm in doing the old way of doing the Merkaba. You can practice that until you get to a workshop and learn the new way. There's like,
Right.
it's still wonderful. It's still valid, and it still will create a synthetic field around you. And you'll just have to do that
Right.
meditation each day. And so this is just kind of Merkaba 2.0, but version 1 is also great. And it is a way to practice it and get familiar with it as well. It's more
Yeah.
complicated, but it still has tremendous value.
Right. Yeah. It's very nice. How long did it take you or how long does it usually, I guess it varies from person to person.
How long does it take to activate the Merkaba in the new way? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, in the
Okay.
new way, yeah.
So it varies. Some people do it right in the workshop.
Right.
On the last day of the workshop, we do that whole meditation where we put all these pieces together for 4 days, and then
Sure.
we do the whole meditation. And some people, maybe about half of people roughly, do it in
Yeah.
the class that first time, and then other people
Right.
have to take it and practice it. It's just
Right.
about when it's the right time for you, or when enough alpha builds in the brain that the light
Sure.
comes on, or when you're able to get into your heart. So some people take it and practice it after. Some people it happens right away. It's really
Yeah.
varied, and it can be surprising. Some people think they're not going to, and they do. Some people think they're going to in the class, and then they don't.
They
It's really
don't, yeah.
between you and your higher self. And so I'm doing these workshops online now because it feels so important for these times that, that people have access to this. And I'm also still doing them in person in Portland occasionally. I don't have any scheduled right now, but I'm open to do it. If you want to do it in person, just message me, and I'll put together when I have a few people, and we'll create an in-person workshop.
Okay.
But I have found doing them online to be incredibly wonderful. And I'm surprised by that. I wasn't expecting it, but as soon as things locked down a year and a half ago, and I had about 12 people or something scheduled to do a workshop with me in person, I just was like, I'm just going to move it online. This is too important. And so I found that something is missing in online workshops that you get in person, and that's that warmth, that sense of community, that having lunch breaks and chatting with each other and hugs, and that sense that you get when you're in a field with people. You don't get that on Zoom, even though I try my best to make a warm environment. We're still in little portals. And what I have found, though, is because people are in the privacy of their own home, they go deeper in the meditations. There's something about being in your own space, being relaxed, being quiet, not being in anyone else's energy field, that people tend to go deeper. And in the end, I think that that's more important, because we can get community elsewhere. We can get hugs elsewhere. We can get that sense of spiritual kinship, but this important material is so important. And if you can get this easier by being in your own space, well, then bravo. So I have been a fan of the workshops and have started to do more and more of them online for people. It's so much more easy and convenient for everyone. So, that's the difference between the two. And I have one coming up at the end of this month, October 29th. I have one, I think, November 19th, December 12th, January 7th. I'm sort of doing them every 3 to 4 weeks online. And my schedule can be found at heartandsoundhealing.com. And I think I really like this 2-hour introduction, and I think I'll continue to do this maybe once a month. And so if you want to do it again, or if you want to send other people to experience it, I think this is a great, little intro to this work. I have a question from Shane. Are there other ways to stimulate the alpha waves? Yes, there are. So alpha waves are joy and bliss. And you can stimulate alpha waves by thinking happy thoughts, by being in joy. And so the secret to staying youthful and vibrant is to create alpha waves. And so rubbing the tongue on the roof of the mouth is one way to do that, but also just like Peter Pan, think happy thoughts and you can fly. So joy and bliss will produce alpha waves in the brain as well. Other questions?
I have one more question. Is this like the light activation that you speak of when you do like the third eye, pineal, all of that, the rods and everything? Is that like akin to like a Kundalini awakening? Is that a similar experience? Because people speak about having like this light that rises up your spine, this light experience. So I wonder if that's like if it's a similar.
I think that
activation.
there's similarities there, but in the workshop, when people do this, it doesn't tend to be as dramatic of an experience as when people can have Kundalini awakening. Sometimes it can be really dramatic on the physical body and intense, and it tends to be very gentle in the workshop. People aren't usually having big moving experiences or things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. I feel like I was pulled out of the meditation around 7 minutes. And I don't know if it was my head consciousness pulling me out, or it was my heart anchoring love to myself. But I've had a sore shoulder for years now, and I felt like I was pulled, and I pressed on a certain point, and it's actually helped my shoulder. So I don't know if it was my higher self showing me how to fix my own shoulder, or was it my heart that was anchored in love to give me self-love?
Wow. Either way, that's beautiful.
Wow.
So I now feel like I know how to fix my shoulder because I was shown. I was pulled out
Beautiful.
to fix my shoulder, and then I went back in again. It was very bizarre. So I'm just glad that whatever way, if it was my, my higher self, or just loving myself more from my heart and guided me how to do that, either way, I'm happy with that. I just wondered
Beautiful.
if that was kind of normal.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe it's a combination, of both.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
And it is love that heals. And so you got into the space of love with Mother Earth, with Father Sky, going into the heart, boom. And there's the love just radiating. And we learn about healing and in the workshop as well, and how truly it is love that heals more so than any healing modality. It is love. And so in that state of love, that's beautiful that you had a healing.
That's very cool.
Anything else, anyone?
I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Are you speaking, Joyce? I couldn't tell. Okay, so let's do a little closing and just take a moment to close our eyes. Feeling the connection with our higher self. Feeling the connection with Mother Earth, Father Sky, anchored in the sacred space of the heart. Thanking our higher selves for leading us here to this moment. And dedicating any work that we do for our own good and for the highest good of all, in loving service to the ascension of humanity. Feeling the support of each other. And radiating love to all. And so it is. Thank you so much for
Thank
spending
you.
2 hours with me and going on this journey into the heart. It's my absolute delight. And if you want to,
Thanks, Viola.
you're so welcome. Just feel free to message me if you want to chat anymore or want to take it further in any ways. Otherwise, check out that Living in the Heart book and plug into more of this in that way.